Hey there, this is Dale the librarian. Today we're going to talk about books. Books, there are so much stuff going on with books that I can't cover it all, so I tried to get the highlights of how to discover them. If you need some more help on how to actually use them, because they're really efficient for helping you get things done and getting a basic understanding of just about anything under the sun, um, feel free to contact me. So when you go into books in any particular academic institution, they're always going to have their own local catalog. And usually they're going to give it a name. Ours is called USearch. I don't know if I had covered this, but if you put something in quotes, it will look for that as a single keyword search. When you're looking in the catalog, it's best to be less specific than if you were in a more complicated database, because there's fewer records and it doesn't search the full text. Generally, it just searches for the information about the item itself. So I'm going to look for social media. There's a lot going on with social media. In our catalog, we have a million things related to that. Do we have a million books on social media? The answer is a regrettable no. What you have to do is sort down to books in these facets. So over on this side, these are called facets. I'll use that in other contexts as well. So if you go to more options and just click on books, or if you're interested in finding any one of these in particular, sometimes you'll have a class that asks for newspaper articles, but I'm just going to do books. When you find the books, there's two different ways of going after them. There is the ebook, so the online access. So here's the social media handbook. Be aware of the dates. A lot has happened in the last 5 years, so this might not be the most accurate way to go. So I always recommend doing date newest when you're looking at books, unless you're digging into some history. One problem that we've got is book chapters will also show up here. So my rule of thumb is look for the book icon to show up, and then you'll be at the beginning of those complete collections instead of like book chapters. So here's another full text. Collaborative production in creative industries. That one actually looks pretty good. University of Westminster Press, so that's really nice. There's two things you can look at. The details, this is that metadata for tracking down what's going on in the book itself, and it'll highlight your keywords. You can also go to the View It tab. Looks like it's just dumping a PDF in my computer. There are more structured ebooks, so it might not give you an ebook in a locked-in format, but it might just give you the whole thing. Usually it's going to be in some format, and that's going to say online access. Let me show you one of those more formal ebooks. These ebooks typically are not available for full download, but you can search the full text of it, and you can do a whole bunch of other neat things. So don't be too put off by ebooks. What I like to do is go into the table of contents. If you find an ebook title where it's talking about being in a particular location or a community or something that's right on your topic, if you're doing a literature review, go through the table of contents, and it will typically be exactly what is framing what you want to say, and then you can go from there onwards. This is a great time-saving moment. I wanted to show you another one. When you go to, and this one's from a year or so ago, another common book that you're going to find, and this one is a physical book, and I'll tell you how to find those in just a moment. But when you go into the details, it will show you all of these different things where it's like, it's got a different person's name on the end of each one of these. What does that mean? This is called an edited book or an edited edition. This is just something where somebody wanted to go out to the scholars in their field of study. So e-learning is this one. It's an education online. And what's going on with social media, and they'll go out to the listservs and they'll say, send us your chapter proposals, and we're putting together this edition. And then a group of people will typically put together this, and then they'll go and tell the people to write the chapters, and they'll put it together. So this is another one where you could use this as a guideline of what's hot in e-learning and social media these days. There's a lot of specificity, but you can go through that way. In the subjects here, you can also go along with any of these, and it will find more materials for you, or in your search, you can also go into subjects. There's a bunch of classifications, so if you're getting too much of one thing, you can just boil down to social sciences as well. How do you find a regular book? The call number here, let's see if I can zoom in. The call number location It's an alphanumeric. Here's the trick for finding any of them. You start with A and you work your way down to L. When you're out in the general collection, there's about 2 million books out there, so it takes a bit of walking, but you'll start to see that they're in alphabetical order. Once you get to L, it starts out with LA, LB, LC, LD. Once you get to LB, then it starts over with LB1, and you work your way up to LB 1044. Once you get to 1044, then look for the .87. Once you get to that section, it'll start over with .A. You work your way to E, and it'll start with E1. I think you get the idea at this point. What I highly recommend is that if you find one book that really is relevant to what you're looking for, go out to this very specific chunk of call number, and all of those books will be on the same topic. Be aware that we have been a library for a long time, and so some of these things that you're looking for are going to go way back in time. They won't be as new as this. So look for the shiny ones, but also typically you can see the newest things will have that there. But you can also look back in the older things as well. Not every discipline you need to find something brand spanking new. After you have looked in the library catalog, what other book options do we have? And there's, by the way, millions and millions of book options here. I wanted to show you one of our library databases called WorldCat. WorldCat, if I'm going too fast, I apologize. I'm going to a database in the list. WorldCat, this is a library catalog, and it's a bit of a clunky interface, but this is a library catalog of all the academic libraries in North America, and some of the city and county libraries show up as well. So I'm going to do social media and adolescence, my pre-canned search. So you can add more detail to your search, but this is all the books on that topic. And again, this isn't searching full text. The problem that we've got with this one is it just throws it in some order of relevance, and you have to figure out how to sort. In this database, I haven't figured out how to sort it when you have a big search result set. What you can do is put the year in, and you can just see 2017. There's stuff coming out for 2018. Or you can narrow down to just books. I'm not quite sure what this means. When you narrow down to books, then this option right here will show up where you can sort. The sort is painfully detailed, but you're just sorting by date, descending. And once you set that, then the newest stuff will show up, and then you get these things that are copyrighted in the future magically. This is just a pre-press record. It seems unlikely that this has been published yet, seeing how it's September 2017. What you can do with this, though, is you can see some of the books we are going to have in the University of Utah, and you can track down the call number, or you can look in our catalog for the ebook link, but you can also see the things that are going on in other schools that we have not purchased. And you might get ideas like this, and there's two things you can do. I think I talked about this last time. From the Marriott Library homepage, you can request a chapter out of a book, and another library will scan it, send it to you in PDF format, really handy, or you can come up here and suggest a purchase. If it's less than a certain amount of money, which is a pretty big amount, we'll just buy it automatically for you. Make sure and put your U network ID number in there so it goes to you. This is a great way of looking for those literature review moments that cover your topic exactly the way that you want to, unlike the scholarly articles, which are probably going to be a little more specific. Another page that I want to show you. A few years back, there's a database called the HathiTrust. The HathiTrust is a bunch of books that have been scanned from 4 big libraries a few years ago that Google had this book scanning program. If you've ever been to Google Books, this is looking at that, but it's also connecting with libraries who've made these things available full text. So if you're doing any historical things, I'm going to look up the lovely motorcycle, the Velocette. I think that's how you pronounce it. Just to give you a feel. This will look for books in the Google Books project, but you can also do the ones, the full view. These are no longer protected by copyright, and you, as a member of the University of Utah, can download things. And there's going to be a big mix, but my favorite one is Motorcycle Illustrated. So if I wanted to, I could download this entire book as it was, but you can also use this to do some advertising or you can look at old rhetoric and discourse, or you can just have some fun and see what crazy contraptions people put together. I bet this just spewed pollution into the atmosphere. But it's a new German motor scooter. Comes complete with a horn. The nice thing about this is there's a lot of ads that are inline as well, whereas some of our newer media, the targeted advertising, you don't get to see the ads intended for that particular community. So this is kind of fun. And there's a lot of different historical journals and books that you can discover this way. That one's called the HathiTrust. I had mentioned Google Books before. Let's go there. Google had scanned all of the books in Berkeley and University of Michigan and things like that. The benefit of Google Books is that this is a full text search. And this is done with, oh cool, Justin Bieber. Let's look up Justin Bieber books. Just kidding, I had a better search than that. This is a mix of everything that's been published in those academic libraries though. So some of the pop stuff may or may not be there depending on the era that it shows up in. I'm going to do a search for one of my favorite topics, and that's the Isle of Man TT races. But during the TT, I think in the 50s or the 60s, there was some espionage going on. An East German by the name of Ernst Denger stole some technology and sold it to Suzuki. Very scandalous. But I don't know if that's going to show up in any of the books. So where does that story show up? There might not be a book completely about Ernst Denger. So let's take a look. The Devil and Dog Forum. I already looked at this one. I don't think that one's related. But here's one. Stealing Speed, the biggest spy scandal in motorsport history. I don't think that so Ernst Denger is not in the title. It might not have his name in that metadata, so this might be a way that I could discover something that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Now the problem with this one is it was published in 2010, so it's still protected by copyright. So I would have to use Interlibrary Loan to get a hold of this one. But it's a good discovery tool, and it can get me in line with finding those things. And then lastly, I want to show you just a fun toy. You may not find this useful, but it's fun. So what they did is they took all of those books that they had scanned, and you think about the publishing industry, and it runs the mass-produced where books became inexpensive, and you could, ostensibly just about anybody could get them. So it's not like 1455. What they did is they scanned all of the books and all of the text. They did the optical character recognition, the OCR, and now you can go in and you can see on a time scale when certain words are used. This is great for looking up jargon. I think there's one, poppycock. That's just poppycock. You can see that it peaked around World War II, and then all of a sudden that lost its. I think that's a Britishism. Or you could do more useful ones like television. And you can see, obviously, there's not a lot going on beforehand. But all of a sudden, right after World War II, it jumps. And then this must be where like TVs did something like that. You could look up your name. You could look up different incidences of things. You could look up television and type in maybe like the name of a program. There's no books on I Love Lucy. What a shame. You could do motorcycle. So you can see all sorts of different timelines. And you can do a lot with this as well. And again, this is looking in the full text of those books. This is not a discovery tool, but this is more of like looking at the data. And you can see if you go to YouTube, you can see some other neat tricks that people have done with a variety of these tools that I've showed you. So I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will talk to you in just a little while.